let me welcome you to my channel. Before we begin the video, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and like this post. Since Roman Reigns' return to the ring, Solo Sikoa and the OTC have been heading in the same direction. WWE after the premiere of. As a result of SmackDown's cancellation, Sikoa took clever dig at his relative, which a large number of fans could you possibly overlook. Solo Sikoa and lineage absorbed the proceeds from the black market and in a tag team competition with 8 players, the night's big event on SmackDown. A line of descent emerged victorious after Sikoa successfully pinned Montes to the ground after the lineage of Samo spikes and drops festered with joy after their triumph in the ring as the program concluded prior to the group may be able to retreat to the rear. Sikoa made fun of Roman Reigns by amassing him in the same manner that Reigns has in the past, using Superman to strike his enemies. Punch. You can see the video down below. Roman Reigns was assaulted by a lone Sikoa person. Match of the week. The valiant Roman Reigns reappearance at last month's SummerSlam. The undisputed wrestling champion from the past has not been seen since WrestleMania XL. During the summer's most extravagant fate, after returning, Reigns made the decision to one-on-one with Sikoa during his WWE title bout. In the first confrontation with Cody Rhodes, heads of tribe, his hiatus from Sikoa, an updated version of both lineage he chose to modify, decline Hyman Paul of the group since he rejected Sikoa's claim to the former enforcer, now serving as tribe chief. Hyman was knocked out with a triple power bomb over a tabletop. Roman Reigns came back at the culminating live event of August featuring Fury, despite the fact that Cody Rhodes was his historic reign came to a close. The previous, someone from the Shield, chose to assault Sikoa on Slam a few weeks back, though. A family tree came together and wiped off. Takes over. The ex-US champion is still unbeaten. Made appearances on WWE television since. The final moments of SmackDown were drawing nigh and disputes reached unprecedented levels in the place where Roman Reigns normally hung out. After several weeks, letting the fissures in the lineage to delve more into and inquiries about what lies ahead for the once dominating group were on the minds of all individuals during the chief of the tribe's absence, created vacuum cleaner upon whom would come the next to complete the task at hand, or even worse. The family has at last Sikoa's collapse, the one who mended the Annoy lineage and the progeny of the youngest. The brothers' lives had revolved around focus ever since Roman decided to step back. The gravity of his demeanor was conveyed by his body language and his profound quiet. Vocabulary used in the most recent episode of SmackDown dropped hints on more than simply its indication of a developing anguish and maybe a yearning for transition. As the main event of SmackDown concluded, proceed with an ill-planned tag team battle including and Jimmy USO in opposition to the Days of Judgment. It was only Finn Balor and Damon the Priest standing on the court with labored breaths. He looked into, but failed to concentrate their efforts on competitors who were monitoring. A moment of uncertainty swaying his face. Jimmy was about to leave when he was pinned alone in the ring, while the judgment that honored their triumph individually wasn't. I was only let down by the matches, the result with which he was obviously unhappy. Status of the family tree as a whole. When the camera panned in on Bond, there was a tale revealed by Solo's face. So let down. Everything had been bequeathed to the lineage by him, serving as the devoted bodyguard for Roman, doing the unclean work for the tribal chief, employment. But now that Roman is gone, Solo's, this time, Jimmy's load was heavier than before. Deceit, Jay's treachery to uncook, and without Roman, I felt completely alone, as well as his growing quiet seems to have become more gloomy, thoughtful as the program ceased transmission. Soul grabbed a microphone, an item he never did, staring straight into the video recorder. When he spoke on behalf of them, his speech was sparse for the first time in weeks, but important. You believe I only serve as a disciplinarian? Absolutely, Solo sounded growly. His dissatisfaction was about to burst out as the Romans, there, engaging in his activities, while I sit here. I am engaged in combat on behalf of a guy who I enable. Even reveal the crisp but understated. The Roman Reigns review was surprising. The match's electrifying atmosphere, out of nowhere, became silence. She had always been reluctant about asking Roman prior to this, and his remarks suggested that something was about to turn. He let go of the microphone in a fit of anger. After his few remarks, he got up and left the ring, leaving Jimmy all by himself. It is obvious, utterly shocked when the cameras rolled, remained in a state of unease. News of Solo's remark quickly traveled behind the scenes, whispered their way inside the locker room, as was widely understood to be difficult. Despite his absence, Roman Reigns was still not minutiae, but alone had spent months being weighed down by the falling lineage, and it was obvious that he refused to put up with being ignored for good. Paul Heyman, possessing, had been the sage of the bloodline and Romans. The head advisor saw a pattern of, with dread, Heyman's loyalty to Roman behind the scenes never faltered, but he was also aware that any aspect was evolving outburst of Solo may have changed the whole particular group's dynamic would really perform alone. Challenge, was this an isolated incident or Roman manifestation of ire? Following his remarks, Heyman hurried over to confront Solo, but Solo ignored him and continued quietly down the corridor, staring into space. Focused Paul Heyman is a straight shooter, skilled diplomat, and skillful manipulator seemed to uncertain about dealing with the authorities. Rising dissatisfaction with the locker room's response. Responses in the locker room were on the fence about the purported shot that Solo took at Roman was startled by, although some see it as an inevitable unfolding of the disintegrating lineage plot, including a few of the most famous actors, reckoning with the end of the world on. Vicious Beasts saw Solo's annoyance when working as an chance to work alone without Roman's supervision could be a trustworthy friend or a hostile foe. Specifically, Sheamus saw being alone as imminent threat. The individual has been Roman's assassin for an extended period of time, remarking in interview on stage, but there's a limit to how. A long time ago, when he was the silent assassin. Are you looking for something else? Solo needs food, and I may not be shocked if he's receiving. Leading wrestlers similar to Rey Mysterio was more careful this time. I remain devoted to my family, solitary. Rey was asserted, however, when ties inside the family, after their hearts break, they begin to seek out on their own if Roman returns soon, and nobody can predict Solo's next move. Marks a significant turning point in C's subtle jab at Roman Reigns failed to land. Much like a mishap, it seemed like a shift place in the genealogy tale, because to Roman's absence, the weaknesses in the establishment and individual who had perpetually been the devoted and unassuming enforcer now appeared in a position to seize the opportunity. Though the WWE Universe was rocked by speculation that swept social media, supporters arguing for Solo's future. Maybe, is this the start of uprising among the would lead the Dare Challenge bloodline under Roman's direction when he finally took to Twitter again, this time writing Solo. Roman is just shaded by Sikoa. Wow, things are about to become crazy when another position is taken up by the tribal chief. There has been no let-up from Solo in weeks. Roman need to be cautious when he returns to I am prepared for that. Solo highlights Solo S.O.'s future plans, resulting from what Solo said will, without a doubt, unfold within the next weeks, with the absence of Roman Reigns and the responsible for the lineage in issue. Suddenly, SmackDown may turn into a struggle for dominance. There will probably be no relief for Solo anytime soon. Under the surface, and if Roman goes back to quell the uprising or permits individual action to advance to a more visible position, to stand out, one thing is for sure, Sikoa can no longer stand on its own 2 feet.